To be as thin as tissue paper. To be extremely thin or delicate, like the material used for tissues. To lack substance or strength. To be fragile or easily torn. The walls of the old house were as thin as tissue paper, and we could hear everything from the neighboring room. The ice on the lake was as thin as tissue paper, so we didn't dare walk on it. The fabric of the curtains was as thin as tissue paper, letting in too much light. After months of illness, he became as thin as tissue paper. Her excuses were as thin as tissue paper. Nobody believed her. To be as tough as nails. To be extremely strong, resilient, or durable, like nails used in construction. To be emotionally or mentally strong. To withstand hardship or adversity without faltering. He's been through a lot in his life, but he's as tough as nails and never gives up. Despite her age, she's as tough as nails and still works on the farm every day. The new boots were as tough as nails and lasted for years without showing any signs of wear. The coach was as tough as nails, pushing his players to their limits during training. The old car was as tough as nails and kept running despite its age and mileage. To be like finding a needle in a haystack. To be extremely difficult or nearly impossible to find or locate. To search for something in a vast or cluttered space with little hope of success. With so many applicants for the job, finding the right candidate was like finding a needle in a haystack. Trying to find a specific book in this library is like finding a needle in a haystack. It could take hours. Locating the lost earring in the park was like finding a needle in a haystack, but she eventually found it. In a city as big as New York, finding a good pizza place is like finding a needle in a haystack. You have to know where to look. Finding a reliable mechanic in this town is like finding a needle in a haystack. They're all booked up for weeks. To be a square peg in a round hole. To be a person or thing that does not fit or belong in a particular situation or environment. To be mismatched or incompatible with one's surroundings or circumstances. Trying to fit in at the party was like being a square peg in a round hole. Everyone seemed so different from her. Being a vegetarian at a barbecue restaurant is like being a square peg in a round hole. As an introvert in a job that required constant social interaction, she often felt like a square peg in a round hole. As an artist in a corporate office, he always felt like a square peg in a round hole. The new employee struggled to adapt to the company's culture. She felt like a square peg in a round hole. To be as clear as mud. To be unclear, confusing, or difficult to understand. To lack clarity or transparency. To be ambiguous or vague. Her directions were as clear as mud, and I ended up getting lost. The legal jargon in the contract was as clear as mud to me, so I asked for clarification. His explanation was as clear as mud, leaving us more confused than before. The instructions were as clear as mud, and I had no idea what to do. The teacher's explanation was as clear as mud, and none of the students understood the concept. To be a drop in the ocean. To be an insignificant or negligible amount compared to a much larger whole. To have little or no impact or effect due to being a small part of a much larger situation or problem. Increasing funding for education is crucial, but it's only a drop in the ocean when it comes to addressing systemic inequalities. My donation to the charity was just a drop in the ocean compared to what they needed. Repairing one pothole on this road is just a drop in the ocean. The entire road needs to be repaved. Reducing our plastic usage is important, but it's only a drop in the ocean compared to the overall plastic pollution problem. Planting trees in one neighborhood is just a drop in the ocean when it comes to combating deforestation. To be as light as a feather. To be extremely lightweight or lacking in density, like a feather. To feel unburdened or carefree. To experience a sense of weightlessness or ease. He floated down the river, feeling as light as a feather, with nothing to weigh him down. After a good night's sleep, she woke up feeling as light as a feather, ready to tackle the day ahead. The package was as light as a feather, so I knew there couldn't be much inside. After finishing her exams, she felt as light as a feather, with all her stress lifted. With her debts paid off, she felt as light as a feather, finally free from financial worries. To be as solid as a rock. To be extremely stable, sturdy, or reliable, like a rock. To have a strong or unyielding character. To be steadfast or unwavering in one's principles. Despite facing criticism, she remained as solid as a rock, confident in her decisions. In times of crisis, his leadership was as solid as a rock, guiding his team with confidence. The foundation of the building was as solid as a rock, ensuring its stability even during earthquakes. His commitment to his goals was as solid as a rock, never wavering despite obstacles. Their relationship was as solid as a rock, able to withstand any challenge that came their way. To be as clear as crystal. To be extremely clear, transparent, or easily understood. To have perfect clarity or precision. To be free from any ambiguity or confusion. Her instructions were as clear as crystal, and I had no trouble following them. After the explanation, everything became as clear as crystal, and I finally understood the concept. His intentions were as clear as crystal, and there was no doubting his sincerity. The terms of the contract were as clear as crystal, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The water in the lake was as clear as crystal, allowing us to see all the way to the bottom. Level up your English. Master vocabulary, idioms, and phrasal verbs with fun quizzes. Translate meanings into 104 languages. Download now. Link in the description. Please like and subscribe to our channel.